The gap between a container garden that produces just token amounts of food and one that actually gives you enough to really make a dent in your grocery bill, well, it isn't about the size of the containers or even the quality of the seeds. It's actually a set of specific decisions about things like your growing medium, water management, feeding, and plant selection. Most container gardening guides, honestly, either gloss over these or just get them wrong. The reason most people who give container gardening a go end up with disappointing results isn't about a lack of effort or not being committed enough. It's following advice that was written for average conditions without acknowledging the specific ways container growing is different from in-ground gardening. And those differences, if you don't address them deliberately, pretty much guarantee that the plants in your containers will always underperform, no matter what variety you choose or how carefully you look after them. So, this video is really about those specific decisions that turn container gardening from a bit of a frustrating compromise into something that genuinely produces food. Not just general encouragement here. We're talking specific decisions, specific numbers, and specific reasons. If you want more content like this, my free email list is where I put all my most detailed guides. The link is in the description, and, well, it costs nothing. Now let's get into what actually makes containers productive. Let's talk about the growing medium and why standard potting compost just isn't the right starting point for food production. Standard multi-purpose potting compost is made for general-purpose container growing, mostly for ornamental plants that have pretty modest nutritional needs and follow standard watering routines. It's not made for the kind of intensive food crop production you need in a productive container garden, and honestly, the limitations are both specific and significant. The nutrient reserves in standard potting compost get used up in about 6 to 8 weeks of active plant growth, which is way too quick for any crop that needs more than 2 months from planting to harvest. That includes tomatoes, peppers, courgettes, cucumbers, and really most fruiting vegetables. The drainage properties of standard potting compost also go downhill pretty fast with repeated watering. The peat or coir structure that gives you that initial aeration collapses within weeks, leading to waterlogged conditions that cause root stress in those intensively growing food crops. The growing medium that gives you the most consistent, highest yielding results in food production containers is, without a doubt, a custom mix, not just a single proprietary product. The mix I've refined over several seasons of container food growing is 3 parts good quality peat-free compost, 1 part perlite, 1 part worm castings, and if you have it, 1 part finished garden compost. The perlite, well, it gives you permanent drainage and aeration that doesn't deteriorate even after loads of watering. The worm castings provide a slow-release source of biological fertility and a dense microbial community that keeps processing organic matter all through the growing season. The garden compost adds some biological diversity and a longer-term carbon fraction that you just don't get from peat-free compost alone. Mix everything by volume in the proportions I mentioned. Water it thoroughly before you plant, and add a handful of worm castings to each planting hole when you transplant. This medium will keep your food crops productive for a whole growing season, as long as you start supplemental liquid feeding about 6 weeks after planting. Water management is honestly the single biggest cause of container crop failure, and, well, here's how to solve it. Container food crops fail more often from incorrect watering than from any other single cause, and the incorrect watering is almost always overwatering rather than drought stress. The symptoms of overwatering, wilting, yellowing lower leaves, poor growth despite moist soil, are interestingly identical to the symptoms of drought stress and are consistently misdiagnosed by inexperienced container growers who respond to a wilting plant by watering it, compounding the problem. The root cause is the waterlogged anaerobic conditions that develop in containers that are watered before the previous watering has been absorbed, which kills the aerobic soil biology that food crop roots depend on and eventually causes root rot that the plant cannot recover from. The moisture check that prevents overwatering is the finger test. Just push your index finger into the growing medium to the second knuckle, that's approximately 5 centimeters depth, before each watering. If the medium at this depth is still moist, do not water. Only water when the medium at 5 centimeters depth is approaching dryness. Not bone dry, but, distinctly less moist than the surface might suggest. This test is more reliable than any moisture meter and, well, it costs nothing. Combined with containers that have at least 3 drainage holes of minimum 10 millimeters diameter in the base, that's more holes than most purchased containers provide, and larger, the finger test will prevent the waterlogging that kills more container food crops than any pest or disease. Self-watering containers with a reservoir below the growing medium from which plants draw water upward by capillary action eliminate the waterlogging risk entirely and are the most productive container format available for any food crop whose water demand is high and whose tolerance for waterlogging is low. The plants that produce most per container. These are the specific crops that make container growing genuinely worthwhile. Not every food crop is equally worth growing in containers. The crops that produce the most food value per container, per unit of space occupied, and per unit of care invested are those with high productivity per plant, continuous harvesting over an extended period, and high supermarket cost that makes home production economically significant. Crops that produce once, bulk out quickly, and are cheap to buy, like main crop potatoes, parsnips, large cabbages, are poor candidates for container growing unless container space is your only option. Crops that produce continuously for weeks to months, that are harvested in small quantities repeatedly, and that cost significantly at retail are the crops that make container gardening a genuinely worthwhile food production activity. The highest value container crops are cherry tomatoes, a single plant in a 30-litre or larger container, trained to a single cordon and fed weekly from first fruit set, will produce continuously for 3 to 4 months and yield significantly more than its retail equivalent in supermarket purchase cost. Cut and come again salad leaves in any container of at least 10 litres, sown thickly and harvested by cutting the outer leaves, producing multiple cuts per sowing. Chilies, one of the most productive and highest value crops per container, potentially multi-year if overwintered in frost-free conditions, producing dozens to hundreds of fruits from a single plant in a 15-litre container. Climbing French beans, 2 plants per 30-litre container with a cane support, producing pods continuously for 6 to 8 weeks. Perpetual spinach and chard, more productive per container than standard spinach, tolerating both heat and cold, and producing leaf material continuously from the time the plant is established to the first hard frost. These 5 crop categories, grown correctly in appropriate containers with the right medium and feeding protocol, produce more food value per square metre than any other container gardening approach. Share this with a gardener who thinks container growing cannot be serious food production. Subscribe if you are not already. And, sign up for the free email list in the description.